Welcome back for the final presentation of Celebration 40. Former Imagineer Tim Delaney back with us now, yeah. He got name dropped a lot in the last panel.
Oh, that was nice. That was nice. I appreciate that. I mean, you know, it's to see high quality, thoughtful entertainment design is really a pleasure.
Yeah.
Also, I loved Mark's comment that the sketch that Don had done was on a cocktail napkin. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of like rounds out the whole kind of position of creativity. Yeah.
Have you had some cocktail napkin sketches? Has that happened?
Yeah, I can't remember, as a matter of fact.
But probably many of them?
Oh, yeah, probably. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So beyond all that early concept art for Epcot and beyond when you dropped the bombshell on us that you were working on that energy replacement and that you worked on Test Track and all these other things. What's on your resume, the one that sticks out for Epcot is the Living Seas.
Living Seas.
So where does your story with the Seas Pavilion begin?
Well, you know, when Epcot was originally being developed, you know, as I said, all these frontiers were being established. And I believe that there was an early version. I mean, Tony Baxter and had worked with Kim Murphy, Kim was kind of the guy who was kind of pushing all the ocean-focused entertainment potential, because that was his background, and an amazing guy. And so they did a very early version of this. And so there was also kind of it kind of launched this kind of fantasy aspect to start the pavilion, and then went into the big tank. And so I kind of like that, so I kind of pick and choose, you know, what I wanted to do. Certain things became a reality, and certain things, especially in the pre-show, didn't work out what I would have liked to have done. But you know, it actually had a really good show that kind of kicked you into the future and took you into the sea base. But so it was good. I mean, I came in later. I don't remember exactly what year. It must have been about 81 or 82 when we actually started. The team actually started really dedicated to working on that particular pavilion. And we had to do a lot of work just behind the scenes because it's a very complex system, as you can imagine. Yeah. So we were trying to catch up. Which was a huge advantage for us later on when that was the pavilion that was ready to go, you know, with a corporate sponsor. So we lucked out in that way. But there's also, you know, one of those real frontiers that is so unique. We knew that we had to go into it, and it was really special place, because we were having living critters and the complexity of an aquarium tank, but with the story of a future under the sea. So it was actually really exciting, to be honest with you.
Yeah, not just a tank. You're underselling it a little bit. It was the largest saltwater?
The largest saltwater self-contained tank in the world. You know, so the tank is, you know, it's 24 feet deep. It's 200 feet in diameter. The tank holds 5.5 million gallons, and there's another 1 million gallons in the life support system. So yeah, it was pretty complex. You know, but it made a great show. And we got a restaurant. You know, that was one of my favorite things.
Still there.
I love that restaurant.
Coral Reef, still there.
The Coral Reef. And still a very, very popular place, and gets high ratings, you know, really high ratings.
I mean, who doesn't like to look at sea life while you dine, right?
Yeah, I mean, everyone talks about that, but, you know.
Look at fish while you eat it.
I want that one, you know.
I assume someone has actually done that at Coral Reef. I would assume someone didn't know better.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll take the shark.
To go. They weren't eating Coral Reef though. That's they were eating, you know, fish. But no, it was a great. It's a great environment. I've been trying to build an undersea restaurant ever since then, but a real one dedicated to the oceans. I think I look for every project like, let's do that, because I think that experience of going into that world, it's the only real alien world that we have on our planet here. I mean, you know, we can simulate going to space, but the oceans, you know, it's a very, you know, it's covers 70% of our planet, and we're all from it. So, you know, it's a great world to take you into, and a perfect subject for Epcot.
Yeah, it's funny, the underwater restaurant. Then they did a space restaurant where you get in a fake elevator and go to there's a lot of there's some correlation there for sure.
That fake elevator thing is just going around everywhere. It's just like everybody wants it.
They removed fake elevators to put one back in at Epcot. Yeah.
Maybe that's where the hydrolators went. They went to the space-elators or something over there. They rethought about it.
Oh boy. Where do you want to begin?
Let's see, where shall we begin? Let's actually go right to the images.
Okay.
I can easily start talking about that.
I love this.
So this is, again, I was working out a brochure and I thought, I'll do this artwork. And it goes back to what I was talking before. When you have one image which just captures what you feel is going to be the subject of what the project is that you're working on. So I wanted to create a sense that the original idea was to create a pre-show that addressed kind of mythologies and legends about the oceans. There is no doubt that the number one subject on planet Earth about the mysteries of any kind of environment all relate to the oceans because, you know, it's a dangerous place and it was spooky throughout all of man's early days. And so that's where myths were created. And so we wanted to actually recreate that in a pre-show, and then the doors would open up and take you into the future. Mm-hmm. And so you're jumping from the unknown to the future where it all comes together. The other thing that was a huge advantage and really one of the great early days of development for the Living Seas Pavilion was the fact that, like all pavilions, we brought in our own advisory board. And we had the who's who of undersea exploration. Mm-hmm. Dr. Robert Ballard was on our team, Sylvia Earle. My gosh, there's a whole bunch of, like, if you go through National Geographic Explorers, you'll find this whole group of people. And they were caught up in this whole world of really having a massive public presence that was a venue to talk about the oceans and the importance of the oceans and the development of the oceans of technology that's going on in it. Now, Dr. Robert Ballard, I'm still working with after all these years. I've been working on his research vessels. He's the one who found Titanic. And his story of Titanic is just extraordinary. He came to us. Before he had found it, he was trying to get Disney to help sponsor some of the expeditions to go out and see and discover it. But that didn't work out. But it didn't matter. I mean, Bob had support. But he's just an amazing guy, and so were all these other people. And they were great contributors to the pavilion. Mm-hmm. The other person, and as I mentioned earlier, Kim Murphy. Kim Murphy was, he had worked at SeaWorld and he had worked at Marineland and great knowledge and was really in charge of the animal collections and things like that. Mm-hmm. And really, also guided us to what this pavilion should be. I think Kim really was, behind it in terms of what we could do. I wouldn't say, let's make it 200 feet in diameter. I think it was Kim who had really pushed that and kind of understood the dynamics of how everything goes together. So we had another one of these great integrated teams, and it worked out really well. Yeah.
This, all the art that just went away, looks a lot like an attraction poster. Is it meant to be?
Well, actually,
you left the space for the text and everything.
That's exactly very good. I think it said, the Living Seas sponsored by whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be that crass, But it's actually, it's also kind of an attraction poster or actually a movie poster.
Yeah.
Again, you have to set a goal that even though you might have a subject which is science-based, you want to create a sense that you're storytelling and entertaining people. Mm-hmm. And so that was really what our goal was going to be. So anyway, and we started right off the bat by getting into, we'll move on. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, are you going backward? Now, what you're going to see here is I think I did something like 25 paintings. And I just started at the front door and just walked all the way through. And it was like, I said, we need to do this. I need to get on that view looking toward the pavilion. I wanted to get it to flow. and that curving wall just kind of brought you around. It was kind of a vortex that brought you in, and it was meant to grab you. It's meant to, you know, get your attention, and just making the building as fluid as possible. I mean, pardon the expression, but that's really what we wanted to do. And it was very simple, a very simple construction process, because we knew the money had to go into the tank. I mean, you prioritize your budgets when you do these things. And we needed to put something in this pavilion. We needed to get that tank to be, we never actually referred to the tank, but it was like the coral reef.
Yeah.
It really had to be something that was a wow factor. There is another part of the story that, because of the timing of the Living Seas Pavilion opening up, you know, we were post-opening Epcot. And Epcot, when it opened up, and I remember being there on opening day and Card Walker cutting the ribbon and everybody, you know, excited about this new thing. There were, you know, it ran over budget. The project ran over budget.
Yeah.
When, maybe a year before we opened Epcot, we had United Technologies sign on as a sponsor. So we were committed, and they were great. They originally were looking for a space pavilion, you know, the reoccurring space pavilion issue. But they said, no, we want to be in part of this. You know, we want to be part of this, what I call corporate fraternity. They wanted to be United Technologies to be right up there with Exxon and GE and
It was a who's who of
AT&T.
American corporations by
And
that
that's
point.
exactly right. And it really was. And Harry Gray was, he was like a very aggressive CEO, and he's like, yeah, I want to be, you know, I want to be here. So the one big thing we had to do was, you know, build their VIP space. And so that was kind of challenging, but they brought the money to it. It was great.
It is the best of the lounges in that park. That park's full of lounges.
It's the biggest one. It's the biggest one.
Yeah, still to this day. I mean, I tend to believe in some cases, maybe through time, what has saved the pavilion is probably that space.
Do they
They
use it
sell
for-
it as a.
Oh, they-
We've had events in it.
Oh, is that
before,
right?
Actually, yeah.
Well, I love, you know, the far end, the last conference room. I mean, it's like something out of a James Bond movie, because I mean,
Yeah.
the whole curtain opens and closes.
Beautiful, beautiful space.
But and that was the reason why we were able to move forward, because going into this pavilion with Epcot kind of not being on the strongest financial position, and unfortunately, post major projects like this, there's a tendency for layoffs, and people were concerned about that. But my team on this particular project, everybody was working. We were just marching on. But the pressure to make sure this thing did not go over budget one penny was intense. I mean, it was like, you can't do this. It'll be the end of Imagineering. And I'm like, hey, I'm just a designer. Don't give that. I don't have that responsibility to do. But there is a responsibility to do it. You have to be fiscally responsible on these things.
Well, you were saying it could be the end of Imagineering. For those unaware, can you paint a picture of that? This is a very volatile time in the history of the company.
Yeah, well, I mean, right after the glow and the glamour of Epcot opening and the reports that, you know, the company put itself in jeopardy, and there were reports of people coming in and going, okay, we'd love to take this lovely monster called the Walt Disney Company that owns Walt Disney World. It's got a library. We could buy this thing, cut it apart, make money, and split the whole thing apart. And it was shocking. You know, it was really, really shocking. It was really disheartening too. But, you know, there was you've read all the books, you know, Roy Disney and Ron Miller were having, you know, an issue, and there was a proxy fight. They came in and they said, we've got two guys we think will draw the potential of the Walt Disney Company back out again. Yeah. And it was Frank Wells and Michael Eisner. And then they brought in, you know, the Bass family, and so they had the financial backing, and it stopped that process. Yeah. And what people, I mean, those who know, you will appreciate what the work and effort Michael and Frank did. And for us, when we worked with these guys, each one had its own talent, but it was kind of like this two-headed entity. It was always Michael and Frank. It was never like Michael, it was Michael and Frank. Michael and Frank. It was just ran together. And so they came into the company in '84, right? You know, '84. And then it all went quiet. You know, they were like, okay, this is the new management team. And so, Jeffrey was working on, the studio, and they brought in this amazing team of creative executives, entertainment executives. And when you saw that, you saw this is like the A-team coming into the Walt Disney Company. And I had many meetings with these guys because my team had the only viable product, right?
Yeah.
So there's several things that had happened. What happened is that Michael was trying to kind of shake the Walt Disney Company's sleepiness out. And that's where, you started seeing people when George Lucas came in and they were talking about doing Star Tours. And he was bringing in celebrities. He was bringing in, you got to go, how do we get something? I mean, I made presentations on this pavilion to Michael Jackson when they were trying to get him to do Captain EO. This was like, suddenly the sleepy little Disney company suddenly actually became, a player in Hollywood. And it continued to grow. So so that was kind of the pressure that was on us about managing the budget, because it was like, everybody was like, on top of that, not being a lot of work going on, I will tell you that I got a lot of attention. I had one person tell me, you can't go over budget on this. And he was very sincere, very concerned.
Yeah.
And I said, well, right now we're tracking, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm tracking, because I was the original designer, and then you become producer. I was producer on the show, so I had to make sure it happened.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I walked into that sea base and it looks too good. And I'm saying, well, he goes, we're on budget. This is what the design is. What would you like me to do? And he goes, well, even if they think you spent too much money, we're going to have a problem. I'm like, okay, I don't know how to deal with that. Do you want me to make it bad? Do you want me to, spray paint something? But in all honesty, and I'm being glib right now, but quite honestly, there were some serious concerns, very concerned about the Walt Disney Company in general. But these guys were, Michael and Frank, it was such a pleasure to deal with people who really knew what they're doing. I mean, it was great. I know things changed later, but we won't get into that. But I mean, at this time, they saw the potential.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I have to say, while we were in the construction on this pavilion, I remember, when you work on projects, I'm sure you guys all know that it's like it gets to a point toward the end of the project, you're heading toward the end. You're literally working 7 days a week and 18 hours a day.
Yeah.
And we'd get out of this pavilion at 11 o'clock at night, and the only place to go eat would be at iDrive. So
Yeah.
we'd have to drive all the way down there. So when these guys came on board, Michael loved architecture. He loved the building stuff. So, it was like, wait a minute, we don't have any hotels here? So bang, Wing Chow on the phone, we need 30,000 hotel rooms. And they started developing it.
Yeah.
And it started growing. And it grew into the thing that you see today, And it was amazing, the amount of growth. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Now, he loves hotels, right? I mean, in Paris, bringing in all those world-renowned architects, and everyone gets one hotel, and he just loved that. And so my opinion at this time was Michael and Frank were the right guys at the right time. And then, and I will not spin out of control on my admiration for Frank Wells, because if you know what Frank is about, he was a pretty amazing guy. I mean, we're always up for a good Frank Wells story.
Oh, you? Oh, I got till 10 o'clock tonight?
People are clapping.
Well, just don't, you prompt me, I'll be there, But Frank was always the adventurer kind of guy. But I mean, the big stories for me about both those guys was really Disneyland Paris,
Yeah.
I will tell a story, but it's not going to be about Epcot, because they were just too new there, but it was about Frank Wells. So we were opening Disneyland Paris. It was in Discoveryland, okay? and it's press day, okay? And the press day towards just the opening of, toward the opening of a park of that magnitude, you have the press come in and they have celebrities come in, and everybody's there, who's worked on the project. But instead of going through with hard hats and construction boots, you're walking around with a suit and tie. It's like, wow, it's very odd. So my wife and I come walking into Discoveryland, and I see in the middle of the land this whole group. It's a whole press group. I'm like, what is that? Because I knew the schedule, and I said, this is not on the schedule. So I come closer in the middle of this large group, and there's cameras and people recording, and I see Frank Wells and his 6'4" tall, elegant, executive. And it's an impromptu press conference going on. So I kind of edge up closer to the, toward the edge there, where, just at the edge of all the folks there. And Frank looks across and he sees me, and he stops the presentation. He goes, listen. If you guys want to learn about Disney's involvement here in Discoveryland, its tributes to the great European visionaries, here's the guy you need to talk to, right? So they kind of open the way up, and I'm kind of heading a little bit like cautiously heading toward Frank. And suddenly the press conference dissipates. They don't need to talk to me. They have no interest. Who is this guy? We don't care anything about this guy. So Frank kind of peels off, and we're walking together. We're walking out of Discoveryland toward the hub. And Frank, in his very sincere way, he's like, Tim, I got to tell you, Michael and I are so excited about this park. You guys, you Imagineers, done a fabulous job. We think it's the greatest thing we've ever. Oh, and he stops, and he goes over and picks up a piece of paper, trash, and sticks it in his pocket. He says, "Oh yeah, you guys have just done such a great job. Park looks beautiful." He stops and walks over and picks up another piece of trash. And so he's like, "Hold on a second." And he sees a drink cart. And he goes over and he grabs two Coke cups. And he goes, "Come on, Tim, we're going to go clean up the park." Now, this is Frank in his probably $2,000 or $3,000 suit and being Frank.
Okay? Yeah.
So we walk out to the hub, we turn. I look at my wife, she goes, "Have a nice day, okay? I'm not going." So we walked from the hub down to Town Square. And we're just picking up trash. He's like, "What's the matter with these people?" So we get down towards Town Square, and there's a merchandise cart there, and there's this young woman there who's like, I go, don't mind him. He's just the president of the Walt Disney Company. So then we throw the stuff in the trash, and there's a restroom there, and we're in there washing our hands, So we go outside, we go outside, come down the steps, we go outside, and he goes, "Tim, I got to go. I got another meeting. I'm probably supposed to be some other place." So I see Frank jogging off. And I literally stood there and I said, "We will never fail." In a time frame between like the last 10 or 12 minutes, or 12, 15 minutes, he went from probably 150 people listening to every word he had to say to us cleaning up the park, cleaning up trash, physically picking up trash. Him running off to the meeting, I said, "This company will never fail." You have that kind of dedication. That was Frank. To me, that was the symbol that actually represented to me, I'll do anything it takes, and I'm just a guy, and let's just rock and roll. Let's do something here.
Yeah.
And that's he was. I mean, I could tell you 10 more stories like that. And it was, I don't know if you guys know the story. I'll tell you one real quick.
Go for it.
Where people were like, there was this like surveillance, this whole thing around the patio at Imagineering. People would be sitting around to have lunch together, and people go like, "Hey, I ran to Frank over at Cafe d'Orleans down at Disneyland." And I go like, "Hey, I just got back from Paris. I saw Frank at, Festival Disney." Somebody goes, "Really?" I saw him, excuse me, I saw him over on, such and such a place. And there are all these like reports, Frank and Luann, So somebody corners Frank one day. He goes, "What is this deal? We keep running into you." Tony Baxter says, "Oh, I saw him at that little shack over by Splash, So Frank goes, "Well, you know what? I get these letters and I keep hearing how terrible Disney food is. So I decided I am going to go to every Disney restaurant and become an expert." He didn't tell anybody. He didn't say anything to anybody.
Yeah.
Okay? He says, "I'm just going to do it." So then somebody says, "I'm going to complain about food." I'm going to do something about it. And I'm going to say, "I've been into every Disney restaurant. Have you?" And that's Frank. That was like, and he did it with attractions. He did it with, so that's the only one I mean, you can see what this guy was doing. He was just, it was him. And he was the most intelligent and the smartest guy you would ever want to meet. Just calm, very like, this is what we're going to do, you know? And, you know, Michael would go, ah, crazy. And he'd look at Frank, and Frank goes, you know, Frank was like the calming force. It's like, here's what we're going to do. He goes, and he'd never disagree with Michael, but they just talked. And it was like the perfect yin yang. So that's all I'll tell you about.
Yeah. Oh, he's great. I love, can't know the product if you don't experience it, right? Yeah.
And care.
Yeah.
And care. I mean, he took on ownership. You know, it was just incredible. And then the last, I mean, I have this whole presentation. The last photograph is also a telling tale. Yeah. But we'll get into
there.
That.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's take a walk through the Living Seas Pavilion.
We're passing the mural and the oh, this to me, this entrance. I know you're saying like the focus was inside and blah blah blah. Yeah. This mural and the water hitting splashing on the rocks, to me, I always have loved this.
Yeah, I just, you know, there's one thing that I did learn. I mean, many things I have learned about doing Tomorrowlands, and I consider Epcot to be like a super Tomorrowland, meaning you have big attractions in buildings and they're hidden. Let me give you a note, Tim's note on how to do these kinds of things. And it goes back to that other rendering I was showing you for overall Epcot.
Yeah.
No matter what you do in a theme park, things have to be animated. They have to come alive. By its nature, like Space Mountain, beautiful big building, right? You don't see anything. Okay, and I solved that in Paris. All the other Tomorrowlands, or their current projects I won't comment about, but you need to see things happening. You have to walk in, it's happening. It isn't just people, it's like things are going. And the reason I learned it is the original Tomorrowland, well, the Tomorrowland from 1967. When you walked in there, here was like People Mover, rocket jets, monorail, Skyway, Autopia, one Autopia,
the world on
submarine
the move,
ride. It was the world on the move.
Yeah.
And so that's what this was. It was just like that. So we had to put a marquee out there, and I'm like, you got to be kidding. All right, so we're going to have waves crashing against it. We got to make some sound. Something has to happen. And it's a small little token, but the fact is, it needed to have something going on. And that was kind of my tribute. There's nothing, you know, everything the money had to be inside. It had to be an enclosed environment for reasons. It
became such a photo spot. I feel like people just couldn't wait to take a photo or hold the big video back then, the big video camera. But I got to get these rocks hitting this.
No, it's the waves, not the rocks.
Or the waves hitting the rocks.
Well, go to the next image and you'll see how that all happened. You know, it's like, here it is, waves.
Yeah.
And, you know, you got to paint that. It's like, this is how, you know, if I said, you know, what about, if you go to project management, you go like, what if we did like, you know, waves? They're like, what? Or you go into this and you go, or you can have waves. And then, oh, if I see it, I believe it. Okay. And on top of that, there's the other clue that there's a reason why you put United Technologies on it, because it's like hints that once the sponsors see it, you're kind of locked in. So. I'm giving away too many dark secrets. All right, so let's go on. Let's go on. We're just going to blaze through that.
There it is.
There you go. Then it's full glory. By the way, I walked by yesterday. It looks like they have 3 pumps off right now, but it's like, you know. Now, don't.
Were the seagulls moving? Or, anyway.
All right. So, well, I know. I mean, you know, it's all painful.
Promise
anyway.
we wouldn't do this.
Okay. No, I know we did. You know, I know. But that's what it was supposed. That's what it did look like at one time.
Yeah, it's that mural. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So. Let's go on to the next image. Okay, so the one tribute that I was able to get is like, you know, walking through the ancient mariners and artifacts relating to that, and, you know, dive suits that were ancient, and then I'm such a huge 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea fan. You know, it's like, you know, the privilege of building a full-size Nautilus, interior and exterior, was just like, for Discoveryland, was just awesome. Yeah. So this is the queue line. I stuck this in there for really the next image that comes up. So we got a call that, you know, Kirk Douglas was in the park and he wanted to come by the Living Seas Pavilion. So, I mean, my God, Kirk Douglas? Are you kidding? This is just fantastic.
Yeah.
So we're winding him through the queue. The pavilion, and that's Kim Murphy on the right there, so I'm sure you've probably seen. And so we're winding our way through the queue line, and we come up, and in the queue line, there was an 11-foot long model of the Nautilus, and then there's this 20,000 Leagues poster, and one of the helmets, I believe.
The suit, no?
Yeah, the suit. Yeah, it's probably right there.
Yeah.
I can't remember myself. Anyway, so Kirk, he's the nicest man in the world, right? And when he sees that poster, he stops immediately. He goes, "Oh my God." And he had such fond memories of this. He goes, "I would give anything to get that poster, get a poster." I said, "Oh, give me your address, I'll mail you one, So he was so delightful. And then we have another shot with the whole team around him, and he was just great. He was really great. And then, remember this story because we're going to come back to it. Well, no, wait a minute, I can't now. No, that's all right. So I will tell you, 10 years later, we were finishing up. We had built this Nautilus submarine in Paris.
Yeah.
And the construction fence was all around Space Mountain over there, or Discovery Mountain at the time it was called. And I got a call, like, "Hey, can you be at the gate and unlock it? There's somebody who wants to come by." So I go out there. It's late at night, dark, And so it's Jeffrey Katzenberg, and he has Michael Douglas with him.
Oh, okay.
So we come into the gate and we lock up the gate, and Michael Douglas turns and he sees the Nautilus there, and he's like, I mean, you could see almost tears in his eyes. He's like, "Oh my God. That is fantastic. I remember when my dad was shooting that on the Disney lot." And he says, "I would go over there," and he just loved that movie. I just looked at that and I was like, he was like over the moon, right?
Yeah.
So I said, "I met your dad 10 years ago." And I told him the story, sent him a poster. And I said, "He sent me a very nice letter, like, thank you, Tim, for sending this poster, And I have all the letters." And he goes, and Michael Douglas says, "Well, you should invite him over for the opening here, So I wrote another letter to Kirk, and I said, "I don't know if you remember me, but I sent you the poster." And I get another letter back. "Of course I remember you, but I just," he says, "it doesn't fit my schedule." And I kicked myself, like, why didn't I bring him over when we were building it to Hunga? But I didn't. But he was so gracious, and once again, and I talk about this, and I probably talk about it too much, but there's a really important thing for me to find out people who are notable and the impact that the Walt Disney Company and Walt Disney himself had on these people.
Yeah.
And you see it in their eyes, you see it in how they, again, I go back to, it wasn't a motion picture studio. It's something that they looked at and remembered, and it was really rewarding. I love that part of it. And it's just like, just the fact of meeting him was just awesome. Yeah. So anyway, let's go on. In the original scheme that Tony had put together, there was going to be a ride that went all the way around the tank, and it was really much more of a fantasy kind of ride, and you can see those are kind of omnibus vehicles, but it was a huge ride going around. And again, that got value engineered out also, I mean, I understood that, but I really wanted to put that pre-show in. And the pre-show was going to be, you came into this grotto, and the grotto was all sculpted, and there was a water curtain that came down, and suddenly we would do all these projections, and we'd do projection mapping on the rockwork, and you'd see images coming and going. And it was that illusionary aspect of what mythology is all about. What was that? Was that a sea monster? Was that just a school of fish? What was it? And we wanted to bring that concept of mythology to the pavilion. And then at the end, the curtain opens up, and then you walk in and get on the ride, and then you go through this fantasy thing, and then you end up at Seabase. Welcome to Seabase Alpha. Yeah. So it was that transition from mythology into the 21st century, Seabase. So anyway, we lost that pre-show, we lost this, the show all around, and then go to the next slide. And there's just another one. There was just a whole series of paintings done to kind of relate to this. I mean, at least I have clownfish in there. It's kind of semi, Finding Nemo. But anyway, so we'll, I don't some of the stuff I don't love, and I did it myself. But you know, it was just trying to get these things sold, and I was like really trying to like keep pushing it. Sometimes I just keep doing more artwork, and hopefully maybe they'll find one that says, you know, we like this idea, or we can afford it. But as I said, the pressure was on because of the pavilion.
Was there any thought of, we've done so many Omni-Movers in this park, maybe we don't need to focus on another one? Is that at all, or is it purely just value engineering the pavilion?
Well, I mean, there was an operational issue here with this particular pavilion, and the debate, the debate was, do we put this Omni-Mover in, or do we, the operation said you can't have people just leaving that area, walking into the tunnels, because they'll stop, and that'll back everything up. So what about moving sidewalks? Moving sidewalks in a sea base is just not something, you know, you're ever going to want to see.
Yeah,
so it was kind of
doing a lot of that. Yeah.
Well, we ended up putting the Omni-Mover in because it was like the stripped down, simplest. It just moved, turned, dropped people off. That was it. It was more of a transportation system than it was a ride. Yeah. You know, and that was the key. And again, we had to watch every penny on what we were doing.
But in this version, there are show scenes beyond.
Yeah. I mean, probably it was, I don't know, probably 6 or 7, well, whatever the circumference of a circle is.
Yeah, as opposed to, I don't know if people got to experience, because it didn't have a very long lifespan, the ride that was built, but it was just like a ride through the tank.
Yeah.
But originally, several show scenes and things in addition to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were, but you know, the other problem was in this being considered kind of a fantasy ride through the oceans. It kind of, again, it tipped into that, is this a theme park or is this Epcot? You know, and that was the issue that was always going on there. But and so it was, you know, there was significant pressure to really manage, you know, the overall budget. It was, and so it was, you know, it was kind of short-lived. You kind of know it's coming, but you kind of like hope, you know. Yeah. No, the tone in the company was very serious. I mean, this whole thing could have been broken apart, you know. And they saved the day. I mean, I still think about how that. And I talked to Michael about it, and he's like, no, it wasn't us. It wasn't me. It was like, you know, you're pushing it off on other people. I'm like, yeah, okay, you can keep saying that, but you know, it made it not be specifically you, but it was the collection of the team that you brought that saved the company. And I mean, as I don't know how deep I got into this, but when I told you, when I started, you know, at WED, people are like, what's Disney? You know, what is Disney? You know, like, what is that? That little cartoon thing. No, I mean, it was, and then, you know, when you saw all the assets that they had, these guys just made the most of those assets and they saved the company. Let's go to the next one.
That'll look familiar to people.
So this is one of my paintings, and again, just trying to sell this. What happened is that this was a big learning curve in terms of physical dynamics and perception issues, and we kept saying there was a term that Kim Murphy used. It went from day one. They said, well, what we're going to do is you're going to go into the sea base in through a hydrolator. It's like everybody loved that word, and then I was like, okay, well, what is it? So I had to figure out, like, okay. You know, it's like saying, we're going to go through this thing in a Gnorkmeister. And you're like, what the hell is that? What is that? I don't even know what that is. So, I mean, the short version is, I mean, there have been, you know, rolling rock walls before, but never done in water. The pools out in front would bubble as the elevator would come up, and it was a somewhat of an interesting production, but it was all series of small effects. The lighting, the movement of the floor, the rolling rocks in the water. That was like, ugh, oh my God.
Was it really, was it that complicated?
Yeah, well, I didn't know how long it was going to last, okay?
Because once you throw water into anything.
Well, anything, water complicates everything significant, and you're rotating this thing, so are we going to get, you know, cavitation in there, and it's going to get water or bubbles going on through there? So, but we tested it endlessly. But the most interesting thing is, go to the next one. It's one of the renderings I didn't do. I mean, I was just like completely out of my mind at this time. I think this looks like a Gil Kepler one. Well, the configuration is the doors are here and here, and the sidewalls are at these angles. So what we learned is that when you stand in the middle, and let's say you're standing looking at the door, your perception of movement is really more in your peripheral vision. It's right here. Not if you look at it so much, but if you see everything and move, the whole room is moving like this, your brain tells you that you are moving. And then we had, a floor.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that was an interesting challenge for us is because United Technologies was a corporate sponsor. One of their, United Technologies is a united group of many companies. And Otis Elevator was one of their companies.
Okay.
So they said, we told them, wow, we had this elevator. It's an elevator effect that's going to take you down 25 feet below the surface of the water. And they said, you had an elevator? Oh, fantastic. We'll have our engineers help you. Like, no, because you move people 60 to 70 to 80 floors, and your engineers show them, or they want the physical dynamics, that you're not actually moving anywhere. We're not moving anywhere. We want the action that you are moving someplace. And this is like, they just like, what?
I love how many times Otis wanted to make Disney rides with regular elevators, and you guys were just like, no, this in Tower. And they're just like, no, not really, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, but really, honest, like, no, it's I mean, for them, an elevator is a conveyance in a building. For us, it's an attraction. So we developed all this, and over at the Maple Building, we built a whole structure for this. We had the tanks in it, we had the windows in it. We didn't have any of the interior panels. That was all part of this fiberglass thing. But we were just working on this special effect, and we went round and round on this. The speed of it, how fast it ramps up, is all part of it. And all of these things were devoted not as a major attraction. It was never meant to be a major attraction. It was meant to be a little bit of business. It was a transition from the outside to the inside.
It's a story element.
Yeah, and so I will never forget the day I walked into this thing and I was part of an audience of the first guests coming through, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be, I said, this is going to be a disaster. They're all going to look and start laughing and ridiculing and all that. So we go in, doors closed, and it's like, and everyone's like, wow. And the doors open the other side, they go out. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
It was like, and it wasn't too long. It was just like the right transition. And the lights changed and went up and down. And it was like, it worked. I mean, it's like worked. They just, I think it has to do with kind of creative trust that you get with the guests. And they're like, oh, okay. I mean, if you've been in there for a half hour, it'd be like, okay, we're done with this. But it's, the right movement. It had the right feel to it. We timed the thing.
There's a lot of convincing that happens ahead of time, right? The first start, you have there's the bubbling pools out front, and I think all those little things add up to eventually. It makes it feel authentic. Even obviously, most people knew it was.
If you really thought about it.
Yeah.
But if you really thought about it and you were that smart, then what you end up doing is you think, this is a little bit of business that Disney did to entertain me.
Yeah.
So thank you. And people think that, but they don't articulate it. They go, oh, okay. Now, you've just come out of that movie. Now, welcome to Sea Base Alpha, which I did love that line, by the way. That digital graphic was a little antique, and now it's antiquated.
It was cool at the time.
But it was cool at the time.
Yeah.
And it says, and that voice, like, now enter this. So you walk into the area there, and you're loading up, and you have to wait, and then you get into that hydrolator, and then you go down, and you get on the ride, and then bang, you're right into the tank. So.
What was the first time you heard that someone asked if this was real?
Well, I don't know. There's one of those stories that somebody talked about, like, saying, "Oh, my child ear pressure was like, And I don't know if that's an urban myth. I mean, I don't know what operation.
We definitely. I've known some people that worked at the Pavilion. They would say that things like that, not the ear pop, but people would at least ask. Every once in a while, someone would ask, like, how far down are we? Or something like that.
Oh man, you're down to at least a half inch. We came back up again, But I mean, the airbag thing and all that. So I mean, I will tell you right now, as I'm thinking about it, this is the most I've spoken about the hydrolators probably in my entire life.
I'm very. I am
because
so
I hear
proud.
There are so many fans here.
I am so proud to be a part of this. You have no idea.
It's a moment.
You have no idea.
Well, the reason I'm doing it is because people go like, hydrolators. I'm like, wow, that's cool.
If I can share
really
a weird story
Please.
So I used to work at a place that resold like discarded theme park props and things. We had like a whole hydrolator. We had all the panels. And my boss comes in. I've set them all up where they're supposed to be. And he comes in, he's like, what are you doing? I was like, we got to set them up in the way that it was set up in the ride. And he just rolls his eyes and he walks out of the room. And it was the coolest day for me because I'm like, I'm in a hydrolator again. Look at this. This is incredible.
Yeah.
I think this stuck with so many people.
The elevator / entertainment, segment is just highly underrated.
No, I mean Space 220. It's the selling. They made it. They remembered how people reacted to this. We're like, what if we did that? We build a space restaurant. You're going to space. So what if we did, like the modern version of the hydrolator? And people don't even necessarily really like the food there. And people are like, I went to see the elevator. I talk to people all the time. They're like, oh, the food was, but the elevator was really cool.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I mean, I always, when you think about it, it's kind of, if you think about it in the context of my, obviously going to Disneyland, going to Haunted Mansion in the stretching room, which I thought was just genius.
Yeah.
And what was genius about it is that they had a problem. Here we have the house. Here we got a railroad, and here's the show building. So it's like, that's one of the most amazing things in the Walt Disney Company and Imagineering collection of tricks, is that when confronted with a problem, they don't surrender. What they do is they go, how do we work around this to make it an asset? And that is, of all the things, really great.
Yeah.
And well, editorial. So anyway, so let's go on here. We're gonna move on. We got to move through here. So then, going into the tank, this was, again, I have people pointing at fish, and the one thing that was really important for us was to actually create a sense that this was not just an aquarium. We never wanted that reference, and also we had windows up above, so you saw that you were really, truly deep under the water, and so you saw the critters, you'd see the divers. In the tank, and we were going to have submersibles, which they have had, and the art direction of the coral reef was everything was bright around the tunnels and the in-tank module, that's what we called it, and then it just faded. It got gray as it went off to the edges, and we kept the light off the walls, so it looked like you were looking into an endless ocean, and that was really the key. Let's go to the next one. So this is again, I just painted these things, and again, trying to show all the activities about this. I remember I had mentioned that, I did several presentations to people. Like one day I got a call to do a presentation to Michael Eisner's son because he was doing a report at school. And it was like, can you present the Seas Pavilion, the Living Seas Pavilion to Breck or, Eric or one of Michael's kids, So these kids are coming in, they're like, 14 or 15, and you're like, and you got your full resources of, all these people at Imagineering, and so I guess if you're the son of the CEO. But anyway, it was great, a few years later, I ran into him again. I said, how'd you do on that report? I hope you got an A, But anyway, we just showed him all this stuff, and I think, they weren't. It wasn't bad. It was like the kids. It was just like the idea of it because they were actually very courteous. It was really pretty cool. Yeah. And the other thing specifically about this presentation, talk about other people. I told you the day Michael Jackson came in, and I kept presenting things because, as I said, everything had been put away, and this was the coming attraction for the new Walt Disney Company. So I remember Michael Jackson coming in. He was just like totally fixated on this, And at the end of the presentation, we were starting to move to the other part of the park, and he stopped. He stopped me, and he turned to me, and he goes, I have a question for you. Like, yes. And he turned around, and he walked all the way down the length of Theme Parks conference room, and he came to this rendering, and he pointed to that submarine, and he said, can I ride in that? And I said, sure. Yeah. Okay. And I mean, listen, if they wanted to begin to do Captain EO, he can own his own submarine as far as I'm concerned. I don't really care. So actually, I stuck this thing here because the next picture is everything construction. Go to the next one.
There we go.
So, so you can see that, this is the depth. I mean, that catwalk up above, that's 24 feet
Which
down.
which iPhone is this? Because your panorama is real choppy.
Oh, well.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
No, it's the way I used to do panoramic images. I take a picture. And there was no roof on the complex at all, But that was, I figured out which, so this is from the far end, that's coming into it, and then the other one goes back the other way, But this was right around the edge there. And meanwhile, by the way, Kim Murphy actually had established a collecting base down in the Keys, and so they had tanks down there, and they were just constant collecting, and that was a whole program there. And that's one of those things where Frank Wells was always down there with Kim, like, okay, this is a really cool adventure, and it was typical, Frank. But it was great. It was great. They were again so immersed in these projects. It was made it really rewarding. So building the tank, I kept thinking to myself, oh my gosh, there's no rock here, so we got a tank that weighs hundreds of millions of pounds, and but they, brilliant guys, they figure all that stuff out. Except there was one part, a little challenge one time in our schedule, but I'll tell you that in a minute.
Okay.
Let's again, trying to get as much activity in the tank was possible. We wanted to have divers in there all the time. Also there was a segment there, where they had to wall off. Actually, this was kind of interesting. We had the holding tanks backstage. They'd let the dolphin into the tank, and they had it. You could not just let them go into the tank.
Yeah.
It was like an open release. They just couldn't. They had to confine them. But the dolphin were actually. I'm not that much of a marine science kind of guy, in terms of the actual animal, but the dolphins proved to be incredibly amazing, and I'm kind of opposed to capturing them now. But I'll never forget, years later, they had a fantastic mechanical robotics dolphin that was they put in the tank for a while, and it was really interesting. This is when the dolphin were on the other side, and they had this mechanical dolphin swimming out there, and the dolphin all go to one side, and you'd see them all get together like this, and then one would peel off, and it came all the way around and looked at this other dolphin, and then went back and talked to his friends. The communication level was incredible. So anyway, let's go to the next one. Just another shot. Go to the next shot, because it's that detail in the lower left corner, that diver there. I have to say, I don't know what happened to them, but I have a whole collection of kids' paintings that they copied this.
Oh, really?
Somebody would say, like, actually, I was most disturbed. I got this copy from somebody, and some kid, young person, had redrawn this in like a, kind of a basic. It was like, obviously this was the inspiration of it, and it had an award next to it. I think they got third place, and I was outraged because they got third place.
Wow.
And again, I was look at what forethought I had. He has an iPad in his hand.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next.
You did. You had the Spaceship Earth. You had all those screens outside at one point. You
Oh,
saw it all coming.
Yeah. So the other great thing about the Living Seas Pavilion is when families would get together in that intake module, and we had kind of descriptions of the critters out there. It's one of the things where it was a shared experience with families. Dad would be like, yes, that's an anemone, out there. No, it's a sea anemone. No, but they didn't, but kids would just like, it was really it was really neat to see kids running around and looking, and really that shared experience was really quite extraordinary. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. So this was, at the time we did this, these windows were 8 feet high and 24 feet long. They were the largest windows in the world.
Wow.
I mean, it's like now, today, it's like, these are like postage stamps compared to what they do now. But we put a Reynolds acrylic company in Costa Mesa, we put them in business. And it was one thing they did is that you have to pour this acrylic into these forms, and these forms had buttresses on the back side. So when they pulled them out of the mold, it had a faceting on the side. So we had to install them to stay on schedule. And then we had to pull them, about 3 or 4 of them out, and they had to go and polish all that stuff, send them back to California. There was another footnote on this that was really kind of, I mean, I always think of this as, maybe I made this up, but I think that there was actually a moment in the schedule that had the tank being filled before the windows were installed.
Okay.
And that didn't last long. It was like, that's why erasers, you know, are out there. But anyway, you know, I mean, and so, you know, again, that was the whole point here is to show, most of the time, the reason I just stick people in is because it helps for people to understand scale and proportion. It's like, oh, that's what it was about. But we wanted to make it as open as possible. So, you know, it worked great. Let's go to the next one. I was expecting them. So the interesting thing, one interesting thing was, for me, is the animal collection. And once the tank was finished and we had to create, all that salt water has been created. Okay, it's a closed system and it's all chemical process. And it's really a delicate balance. So once that all got balanced, then they started bringing all the animals in. And I had come into Orlando one night, late one night. We're always working late, you know, it's crazy. And I noticed there was this one shark, all it did was swim around the perimeter. It just swam around. It was like this long, skinny tiger shark. You know? And I ran into Kim and I go, what is this? He goes, I don't know, the thing won't eat. It just won't eat. So he goes, so it was late, like 1 o'clock in the morning, you know. So we go out there and he goes, I got an idea. You come, hold on, I'll be right back. So he goes backstage and he brings me this bucket, you know, and it's got fish guts and all this stuff in it. And he goes, I want you to stand right here. When you see that thing come around like this, it's going to come right in. You pour that in. It just takes it into its, you know, into its mouth. And he was about 20 feet away. So he takes this big section of fish and as this thing comes out, he shoves it into the shark's mouth, you know. And he goes, we've had this thing, we cannot get it to eat. All right. I was like, oh, okay. So, and I kind of forgot about it. And a few months later, I was back there and I went diving into the tank and there was a shadow that went over the top, you know. And he says, that night, started eating and the thing grew like, it was like 14 feet and didn't last, you know, too long. Well, it lasted for a while, but it was like, you know, you do everything for the cause. Yeah. It was an experience. I mean, it was a really interesting experience. And he's the animal guy, so I just trusted him. You know.
And this is the first foray, really. I mean, obviously they were doing Discovery Island, but this is the first real foray into animals for the parks. I mean, this is. Yeah. You're over a decade ahead of Animal Kingdom at this point.
Yeah. I mean, they had all their own, you know, all their own scientists, and I mean, the water control system, and it was more than just cast members. It was an operational thing. You were operating this thing as a working, living system, you know, and it has challenges. I mean, again, if Kim was here, he could tell you a million stories about what happened, but you know, I kind of stuck on the, you know, getting the show stuff done. Yeah. So let's go to the next one. We'll get into the sea base. I think the next one's gonna. Oh well.
More dolphins. Yeah,
more dolphins. The one I did go into the tank. There are holding tanks right off that are adjacent to the main tank, and I went in there one time. I was just in the tank, and that's where the dolphins would come in. And I've never experienced this before. I'm not a swim with dolphin kind of guy, but the dolphins, 2 of them came in, and suddenly the water felt like there was an electric charge in it. You know, you could feel the vibration. You physically can feel the vibration in it, and they were just echo sounding off of you. And they were like, what is this? And you realize these are an extraordinary creatures on this planet, mammals like this. You know, they never completely sleep. You know, at night they kind of go dormant. They shut half the brain down, and you know, I mean, then they have to raise up to get air. And I mean, again, I knew enough to be wowed by it, and it was really impressive, really impressive. All right, next one.
There we are.
Yeah. So again, this is one of those big giant paintings that I would just do and like said, this is what it should look like. And, you know, and then at the far end is that lockout chamber. And that was meant to kind of reinforce the fact that we are all underwater. And there were, you know, high-tech sounds and comm chat inside the place and calling people to different orders and different kind of assignments. And, you know, it was all meant to be kind of this industrial design sea base under sea, you know. And so, you know, again, I think people appreciate the intent. And I think they know what's going on. But, you know, we want to create the illusion all the time. And the idea, and as I stated earlier, the idea that you can go into the oceans or go into water, but, you know, that chamber it could be empty. Put on your gear, go in, lock it down, you fill the whole thing up with water, and then you swim out. You know, it actually works really well. It's been consistently, it draws a crowd, and it's really great. When I was, I think, the first one that actually went up through it, and it was really interesting standing on the bottom in your scuba gear, and as the water goes up, the pressure in my ears went, you know, instead of going down in pressure on your ears, the water went up. So I mean, it's like everything is about the weight of water on a vertical sense. That's how you determine size of acrylic and how much strength you need to do these things. But it was, you know, it was kind of a great, it was a great bit of business, and the fact that with an audio track to the guests who were standing in the sea base, and so that interaction with people, I think, actually really worked. Let's go to the next one.
Could we? I want to go back to this one for a second, because you told Michael Jackson he could ride in the submarine. Did you tell him he could buy it? Because I want the toy version of the submarine.
I never saw Michael Jackson again. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. I did but no, you know, well, I mean, as you can easily imagine, you know, in that kind of environment, he was such a Disney fan, and it's like you're dealing with a 10-year-old, you know. I mean, and I mean his childlike enthusiasm for it, you know. I also had done one of the early Captain EO posters, and I had to go out where they were filming Captain EO, and I saw him dance like unbelievable talent.
Yeah,
so he was, you know, unusual kind of guy. So we're going. Yeah, so they're, you know.
Look at that, not all in blue.
Look at all that. Well, I don't know. Somebody has a blue thing.
Someone really just went all blue on that, but it's kind of timeless for me.
This here?
It's clean and it looks great.
You know, it was, and there was kind of a logic to it, and you know, the modules were there, and it looked like they could be locked and closed, and it was assembled, and you know. And so that was really the intent. It wasn't, you do everything to kind of create a story that this is not meant to be architecture.
It's a living, breathing facility.
It's like something it's like building a space station. You know, it's not a building. It's you have to carry that theme all the way through, and you do the best you possibly can. You know, where there's structural steel going through this thing, you got to hide it to make it look like it's something else. And that attention to detail, plus the cost to do it right, is what Disney does best. Yeah. Even on a tight budget, you know, I mean, you can see this. Is there another shot here of the sea base? I think there is.
There you go.
So this was the, oh my God, and all those arms that are up there were meant to kind of track these things, and it meant to look like it was a gear coming through. So that's where the comment is, even if it looks like you spent too much money, they're going to have a problem. Yeah. And then that right corner, there was a submarine that was there, and it was like, we fabricated that, but it looked really real, and and it was, and people could spend their time here and go back into the tank, and it was fun. I mean,
and enjoy that exit to Future World sign. There it is. just removed this week. Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. Now, of course, going where that exit to Future World is on the other side between modules 3 and 4, there was another corridor that I went, like yesterday when we were out there, when the bus came and picked us up. Yeah. I looked out there, and we always knew that if we had this idea, and especially Kim kept pushing it, that if we had that corridor that took you to this undersea submarine adventure, it would have really rounded out the pavilion. And for me, I'm just going to say it. If it was me, I would be Disney branding, And one of the brands that is really big for the Walt Disney Company is National Geographic.
Yeah.
And if creatively National Geographic was underwriting this whole thing, like, you know, I've done speaking engagements with the National Geographic explorers, and these are people that are designated by National Geographic as in their own particular individual disciplines. You know, they could be mountain climbers or photographers, or one of the scariest things, I had a speaking engagement at MIT, and one of the guys that was there was, you know, he kind of like just a regular dude. You're sitting next to him, like, what do you do? He says, well, I'm an explorer. Like, what do you do? He says, well, I scuba dive in caves. I'm like, I mean, I'm like, no way. I mean, there's just no way. But these people are extraordinary. And I just said, bring them here. Let us talk. They're so fascinating to talk to. And it's National Geographic. I mean, you know.
If it's fascinating enough to be a streaming show on Disney Plus, it certainly could be fascinating enough to be the premise of a pavilion, right?
Well, you know, the whole thing is the strength of the Walt Disney Company has been how you connect parts together and how they link together.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not telling any of you guys, you know all this, right? And I'm not trying to frustrate anybody either about, you know, some changes and all that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, okay, I'll buy into the branding thing.
Yeah.
Let's
seems like a natural, same with Animal Kingdom, right? It just feels like a very natural thing.
When I came back, I had a meeting, by coincidence, I happened to have a meeting with Bob Weiss. And I said, hey, listen, can I talk to you about something? And this was when the rumor about Disney and, you know, Fox and all that was going on. And so I said, Bob, you know, like, God, how do we get National Geographic involved? And he looked, I was like, you and Joe Rohde, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's like, you know. And I'm like, well, why not? Why not? I mean, why not? So I was like, oh, well, you know, keep it quiet, don't say anything.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, hush, hush, hush. You know what? When I'm out of the company, I can say whatever I want. And my intentions and I'm part of the Frank Wells school of what would be cool here and right.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
I mean, it's
I'm
a natural,
guilty,
right? Like,
guilty.
I know there's a focus on IP, but National Geographic's an IP, but it's sometimes it feels right? Like it could feel like the right fit. And I think in this case, it's like, well, yeah, National Geographic hosting a pavilion about the exploration of the sea, absolutely.
Well, you know, when I saw the rollout for Disney Plus, and I saw Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic, like what doesn't belong here? But it shows it's one of the pillars of what the Walt Disney Plus programs for television shows is going to be. Like, it's your call, guys. Like, I'm signed up. Okay, I'm signed up. Let's do that. You know, I mean, so I can't help but say it here. I don't, you know, because of the 40th anniversary and what Epcot aspired to be. It's my opinion. You know.
Absolutely.
I mean, incidentally, you know, I mean, I have meetings with Ballard, and Ballard's done 35 National Geographic television specials. So Bob Iger is like, we're buddies.
Yeah.
So a few months ago, we had a meeting with Bob Iger, and Bob Ballard and I had a meeting with Bob Iger, and it was, you know, like, I mean, I put Bob up there with Frank Wells. I mean, the same kind of thoughtfulness and all that stuff. But we didn't talk about Disney very much, but Bob was just saying, you know, after 47 years, I'm ABC, Disney, I'm done. Yeah. You know, so go hard. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good.
Getting me at a week like, it's.
You're good.
So anyway, let's. I hope my rental car isn't bombed. Anyway, so.
If I'm still alive, you'll be all right.
I don't know. I just got here. I don't know. I don't know. So I actually did a lot of speculation, you know, things about, and of course I knew that this probably had no chance of going anywhere. But this was kind of like this kind of man ocean kind of thing, you know, this guy in a tank and animatronic and all that stuff. And they were monitoring that there were ways that they actually could, you know, there's just systems you can hydrate the water, and there's a whole thing. But, you know, again, I drew it because I wanted to draw it.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go on. We won't put too much energy in that. So this is one of the early sketches of the lockout chamber, you know, and I wish we did put the seal in there. It would have been really great. But
ask you a weird question.
Yeah.
You draw a lot of art. A lot of things have numbers on them. Are there any significance ever, or is it just like
It depends on
pick
how many numbers there
something?
are.
Yeah.
It depends on, if there's 4 numbers, it's usually.
So I think that's a 71 on that one, maybe.
is it a
0071, maybe?
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know.
00. I mean, I just made it up, but the ones up in the
Yeah.
in the upper area, those are all either for the sea base. It was everybody's birthday who worked on the team.
Okay.
You know, it was all those numbers up there, and it's just like tech chat. It's tech, com chat. And I mean, I do it on every project. I mean, I think I started it here, and I do it on every project. Now everybody just does it. It's all that
It's
stuff.
so common
stuff
now.
hidden
I didn't
now.
know if it was it a thing everyone was doing back then, or?
No, I mean, remember,
Okay.
what happens is that when I'm doing these things, sometimes I just get completely bored and like, well, graphics and numbers kind of designate a technology for this thing. So I'm like throwing up there and like, okay, I'll put my wife's birthdays, her date up there, or somebody else's. I did it in Space Mountain too. There's a whole constellation map, and it's all these designations, and the team likes it. They like
It's everyone's
that's
initials,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
Just initials with a number, or it could be
Yeah.
your extension at Imagineering. I mean, it's a little bit of business. It's really basically what you do when you commit so much time and energy to something. You want to leave part of what you do behind.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean. I mean, I could say your birthday, or I could say 9, 10, 11. I mean, why not do something that means
Why not
something
do
to you?
something, yeah.
And it's not screaming out. You're not putting, your name up there.
Yeah.
And when it becomes a thing,
Yeah.
then it's a problem. Okay. Don't make it a thing. You just kind of
See, it is a thing now. So when something new opens, I know everyone in this room does it. You look at numbers, you're like, what is that? Like, is that this thing? I don't know. I feel like every new project now, we all look at numbers and initials and all of these things
Well,
everywhere.
when you have a situation where somebody comes in and it's like, hey, I'm launching a protest. I didn't get my name. It's like, take them all off. Don't do it again. You don't do it again. I mean, you've lost the whole, this is, people know who's like from day one all the way through. And it's nothing. I mean, it's really nothing. It's not meant to be a thing.
Yeah.
If you make it a thing, then it's,
Yeah.
So.
Not to derail you. So.
No, it's okay. I mean, like I said, there are all kinds of things where people hide stuff in, but the whole thing is, it's, like when somebody says to me, I found the hidden Mickey, I'm like, well, then it's not hidden.
Fair.
Okay, let's go on to the next one. Yeah, well, that's just another shot, of
Look at
what
that
it really
crowd.
became. And yeah. Let's go to the next one. I don't know how we're doing on time here. Yeah, these are the individual modules, and there was mariculture there, and it's a lot of this stuff does get taken out only because it requires a lot of maintenance to take care of, and like all that kelp that was in that center tank, all that stuff is not real. You can't grow kelp unless you have a high copper content to the water. There's a whole deal with that. But I mean, this was meant to show a variety. Each one of the modules had its own story theme, and some was robotics, some was mariculture. It ended up being turtle talk, and there's a lot of things that those all represented.
Yeah.
Next one. Yeah. Okay, that's
There
the
it
real
is.
deal. I have a tendency in all of this stuff I do. I show the art, and then here's the real thing.
Yeah.
Just because in my other world that I live in, people don't understand. Oh, how does this go from a concept to a reality? And so you have to show how to convert it. I mean, it starts with a lot of work, and then you get down to the renderings, and then you go, okay, well, this is what it looks like. And so it gives everybody. The renderings actually have a tendency to give people direction in terms of lighting and how you want to light it and where it goes and how does it function. Let's go to the next one.
Oh, this thing, yeah.
So this is a gym suit. Sylvia Earle is famous for diving at 1,500 feet in this gym suit. And it has these manipulating hooks and all that. And I said, everybody wanted to do touchscreen, quizzes. And I'm just kind of I want a variety of things. So this was a mechanical device.
Yeah.
And those things, you get inside them and they move. And, and it's a great photo op, and the kids love it. There was a step in it, and lights would go
I
on.
actually tweeted a photo of me in this today when I was a kid, yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh my God.
There's a
I wanna
photo of
have
me
that.
and my father that I love where he's holding me up so I could reach the arm things, and you could spin
that's great.
the little wheel and everything.
How old were you?
Maybe 3 or 4.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Who wants to see that? I want to see that.
It's on the Twitter. You can see it.
Well,
This was a
it
fun
was
little
really
thing.
cool because again, when any time you can get the kids involved in something where the parents get to see them quote unquote perform, so to
Yeah.
speak, it's really amazing. I mean, we were talking about, I don't know, we were talking about yesterday, but I was just like, the most famous one, and it's because I built 2 Autopias. That whole thing when, the kid gets to drive dad when they're like
Yeah.
6 years old or 5 years old, it's a rite of passage. And it's just such a thing, and that's where you foster this allegiance to what Disney is all about,
Yeah.
and keep fans for the rest of their lives, the life. Oh yeah, so let's go. And I had a problem trying to get that sold. I was like, come on, it's just like a thing, we'll build 2 of them, So then we actually did have an ongoing, dolphin communication, hand signal kind of thing, and that was just in that last module. I think it's
Yeah.
manatees in there now, but it was
Yeah.
meant to be some kind of a, the dolphin thing. The dolphin are just amazing on their own, so I don't
Yeah.
think we need to plus this. But this was something where we brought people in, and so I just thought, well, we'll show this.
Yeah.
The good thing about this tank is I did that pop in and pop out kind of, you go in, there's a cylinder
Yeah.
that goes in. And,
That's the only place I stand in there. That's
Yeah,
where
well,
I go see the manatees and the
well,
little
it's
pop in.
the immersive part of it, it just gets you involved.
Yeah, feels like you're in there.
Yeah. So I think this may be the second to last. Let's see, go to the next one.
How could you not have this scene? Yeah.
So when I first saw this, it scared the hell out of me when I saw it. I'm like, I hope they know what they're doing. I mean, having Mickey with that head, and I don't know how it was done. I really don't know.
It is still so for World Ocean Day, they still do this.
Is that right?
And people show up in droves, and it's still the coolest.
To see the Mickey in
Yeah.
here? Really?
It's an updated costume, but yeah, no, it's. I've made the trip out to Epcot just to see Mickey swimming around. Yeah.
Well, the first time I saw it was on, our ribbon cutting day. And Frank was in his wetsuit, and Frank was down there with Mickey. He was right outside. They were filming it, and Mickey was there, and they did a ribbon cutting underwater.
Oh, cool.
And I talked to Michael about it, and he just rolled his eyes and goes, "It's so typical Frank." And of course it was. Of course it was. That's what he did. But this is this must be this is a great photo. It was a good shot from inside and outside. But
there's a lot of
it's
food
something
in
you
that
remember
plate.
there. I mean, yeah.
That is a big coral reef meal.
It is. Actually, I'm sure, I don't want to sound like I'm sure people have been diving in this thing a lot. It is an experience. But some of those rocks that are right against the wall near the restaurant are all hollow, so the fish hide out during the day. And you can go dive in there, and you can dive in and go see them, and it's like loaded. And as soon as you come in, they all scurry away. But and then there's sometimes, there's just natural predation that goes in there. One time I heard that they had brought in like 12 spotted rays, and you see them flying. It was really elegant. You see them flying, all together in this squadron. And it's like, wow, that looks really beautiful. And you come back the next day, there are 9.
Oh.
And then you come back the next day, there are 6. When the lights go out, And there's usually never been any problem. I mean, to my knowledge, there was never a problem because they kept the animals all fed and all that stuff. But it's, it's still nature. You have to deal with that.
Absolutely.
So I think there's one more shot here. So
Wow.
this is, Michael had, simultaneously they did this whole thing. So Michael was, standing out there, and he was like, "Okay, Frank's inside there cutting the ribbon inside." And Frank came out, and he's holding his suit, and and this, as I said, this was the new management's coming out.
Yeah.
January of '86. This is like where they made their big. Okay, we are now here. We had done a television special on on the opening of the Pavilion with John Ritter. The thing just started rolling, and this was their this was, as I said, their big coming out party. And, you know, they got up and spoke, and we did the morning shows together, and it was like exciting. Little did I know it was going to be revolutionary, but it was just, again, the spirit of what these guys was all about was really extraordinary. And, it was great. It was just great. So I think that's the last one, isn't it, Jake? Yes. No. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. The Living Seas Pavilion.
So I don't know how we're doing on time. Do you want to take a couple questions?
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. I didn't even answer questions because I was so proud of the fact that we hit right on the number, right on the time. And I probably ruined your reputation of getting on time.
Of being late, yeah.
Anybody, it's fine. About anything. Makes no difference to me. Well, not anything.
Let me see if do we still have that mic? Does anyone have questions? I hope people have questions.
I see a hand. Shout it out.
I just want to hear the test track story from earlier.
I think a lot of people went to lunch early and missed the test track story from earlier.
Yeah.
Test track? Which one is that? I'm sorry.
GM, when you were selling the project to General Motors?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm hoping I'm not saying anything wrong. I'm not very politically savvy about stuff. I just remember history and stuff. But, so you want the GM test track story?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, General Motors had sponsored World of Motion, and, it was a classic kind of Disney fun, Ward Kimball kind of ride. But the end of their contract was coming. And Disney approached General Motors and said, we'd like you to sign up again. We'll renegotiate the contract. And they were going to obviously charge them more. And GM said, well, we're kind of interested, but we have a limit. We're not going to spend that much money. You're not changing anything. They keep changing out the cars, and there had been a couple of iterations on the post show, but we don't really, in terms of sponsorship, we don't see any value in it. So I'm like, I heard that. It was like, well, that's really unfortunate. Then the next thing I know, I'm getting a call from Brand Farron's office. Brand was the head of R&D, and Brand, he says, I'm putting together a group together, and, we're going to talk about GM, and so, we'd like to have you on board. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, we'll come to a meeting. And so Brand is a guy, do you guys all know Brand Farron? Do you know his history? He's head of R&D, and he's a really eccentric guy. He's one of these guys who, I like Brand a lot, but he's also one of these guys who, he has one outfit, and that's all he wears. He has a black T-shirt and safari jacket and pants. I've never seen him in anything other than that. Never, and he's just like one of those kind of Steve Jobs. I don't want to think about anything except, like I'm just going to wear jeans and a black T-shirt.
Yeah.
So that's what Brand is, and he's really eccentric, really smart, and head of R&D for Walt Disney Company. So he comes into this meeting, and he's really eccentric, and he's like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's our schedule for today. We are going to. It's 10 o'clock now. We're going to spend the next 2 hours bullshitting. I don't know what we're going to do. Then we're going to go have a really, really, really nice lunch. And then we're going to come back and try and figure out what we're going to do and what we're going to pitch to General Motors. And the short version of the outcome of that day was he said, what we need to do is maybe we need to get a car go 100 miles an hour. Let's do something. And it's like, okay, but maybe 100 miles an hour, why are we doing that? What is it we're really doing? So we actually created an attraction that was meant to be what eventually became Test Track. And the ride was going to come out of the building. I love anything that comes out of the building and creates some animation going around, I'm on board, right? So this thing actually went out, and the ride was going to be, the conveyance itself, the car is going to be enormously complex, okay? It's like a race car, because it's not only complex, it has to be safe, and you can hear that thing go by. So they go back to General Motors, and General Motors is like, no. And they go, well, we have a new presentation. And this was the big learning curve for me, especially through Disney, because GM was like, nah, we don't really want to do this. And then, creatively, an idea came in. And they went, we love this. What's it going to cost? And they were all in. So instead of falling back and going, well, okay, it's just the same old ride, and we're going to do something, connected the new to the sponsorship contract. And, it was, I don't know the economics. I don't know what they paid. I don't know what it cost. I don't know any of that stuff. but it's the value of, what value? This is a question I ask because I have my own business. Like, what is the value of an idea? And the value of an idea is it the right thing at the right time, or the right place, with the right people? And in this case, it was. And it helped. And here it was. It told GM's story. It helped Epcot. It created another major attraction that had a vitality to it. And again, I know people have allegiance to previous ones, and I'm not judging that. I'm just saying, if we're going to do something and you want to change it, make it better. And people respond, okay? And that's what it ended up being, kind of the right thing. And when all those elements come together, you pay attention to that, I mean, I learned that, for Space Mountain in Paris. We had the right story in the right place with the right technology, but an audience that was really open to it. And it was opening 3 years after the original park opened, and the attendance just jumped. And I, honest to God, every month I'm still getting emails from people going, "Can you do something to bring back the original show?" And I'm like, "No, I can't."
Bring back the.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of emotional connections that people have. I mean, I'm standing up here telling you everything you know, okay? I'm just reiterating examples of where it was successful.
Tim,
Did answer your? I'm hoping I answered your question.
She's good. Our production manager has a question.
Oh yes.
actually, this question is for Tom. Can I show the picture of you and your
Oh,
dad?
yeah, go ahead.
There it is.
There I am. Me and my dad.
wow.
My dad's holding me up in there.
You are adorable.
I'm like, it's too high. I can't reach the things. Of
your
course,
face
he's
pushed
playing. I
up
caught
against
on
the
now.
glass?
He wanted to play with it. I'm just there for the photo. That's what's actually happening.
That is great.
Jeez. My mother at home screaming, "They're showing you on the thing."
That is great.
I've kind of a silly question.
Oh,
Is there an actual SOP for hidden Mickeys? Or does that just come spontaneous?
I don't know how to answer. It's like, I don't know. That's why I said, if you see, I don't know, hidden Mickeys, or you just put them in places. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's a big deal anymore. I remember it was when we were building parks.
People love it. It's become a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
There's books. There's several books. They keep updating them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things. It's one of those things that are special. And if it's everywhere, that is it special? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm maybe making a judgment. I haven't built Disney parks in 12 years, so I don't know.
So Runaway Railway has the most hidden Mickeys of any attraction ever.
I can imagine. Yeah, why not? Yeah, I really don't know. As I mentioned somewhere along the line this weekend, the most interesting ones were the WDI graphics on the Adventureland gate at Disneyland Paris. It just looks like an ornamentation thing, but it's a continuous WDI. Or no, I think it's one segment of it. It comes to the end of the tail, and you have to really look at it and you go, I can see it. It's like, if you put in the context of not just a hidden Mickey or a hidden graphic, but you put it as like it's a scavenger hunt. Can you find this? Can you see where it is? Can you see why it is? Is it turned upside down? Is it backwards? I mean, when you add layers like that in the parks, it's kind of fun. When it gets too much, or it becomes like a thing, then I'm not sure how it works. I really don't know. Sometimes it could be too much, but I don't know. I've never put a hidden Mickey in anything. I put names, and I put my wife's name and my daughter's name in one of the renderings for Star Tours.
You put
But
Disney
can't-
Quest
it's in a
Chicago in
reflection.
Space Mountain.
It's in a reflection, you can't see it.
You put Disney Quest Chicago in Space Mountain in Hong Kong.
What was that?
In the load area in Hong Kong, the
Yeah.
Space Mountain, the Disney Quest, the recycled Chicago props. Yeah.
Well,
Not so much a hidden reference as a budget thing, I'm sure. We'll move on. Another question.
Yeah, remind me of that because I'm going to tell you a story about that.
Okay. I would love to hear it. But we have some more questions.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That
yes.
we can answer.
Okay, what art medium do you work in? Acrylic?
Well, for all of these, yeah, it was acrylic. It was all acrylic.
Yeah.
I painted everything up till about, I painted everything like get a board, paint, you know. Actually, it's literally, it's vinyl paint. It's animation cell vinyl paint, but it's the same characteristic as acrylic, except that it's more opaque. And you can just get, you know, you see those bottles, they're just thousands of colors, and you just put them in, you know. But I did that for probably till like 2000, maybe 2005, something like that. And then I started painting, I paint in Photoshop. I have Photoshop now. But I think the company has, I think I was told by Mike Jusko, they have like almost 1,000 paintings of mine.
Wow.
I mean, you know, some are big, some are, you know, whatever.
Okay. More questions? I'm going to try to get to the middle here.
So thank you for being here, and thank you for all that you've done for the parks. My question is, given that Disney likes to change when they do updates, like to Imagination, sometimes they like to shorten tracks or move things around. If I were to get on the Living Seas, the Nemo ride now, am I getting on in the same boarding location? How is the track layout now compared to the track layout as it was when you worked on it?
I believe you are getting on at the right place, but you know what? I could be wrong about the configuration. And the reason I say that is because when I've ridden it, the track seems really long before you go into the tank, and it was never like that.
Yeah, so
Did they, somebody know?
they
I really
they
don't know.
blew out the pre-show theater. So where the film was,
Yeah.
they extended the ride track into the pre-show theater.
Okay, all right,
So it
there you
leaves
go.
the original load area, goes through that theater, then rejoins the original ride path.
Perfect. Thank you for asking that question, because I was like, this thing used to just go up, turn to the left, and go to the tank. And it seems like it's an awful long thing, or maybe the show. I mean, yeah, so that makes perfect sense. Absolutely, yeah, okay. Great.
Sorry, I don't
Yeah,
need,
I'm-
I apologize for
now I know.
answering questions.
What was that?
I apologize for answering questions.
No, I'm channeling through you. That's fine. That's great.
You had one?
That's great.
Yeah, sure.
All right, here we go.
So I would love to hear a Brand Farron story. So Brand and his crew from MIT and Xerox are mostly academics and didn't always get Disney. And some of the things they engineered were amazing, but didn't always work with what Imagineer was doing. So do you have a story or two about that?
About Brand?
About Brand or some of the things that his crew engineered but didn't ultimately get used?
Oh man, I wish I was smarter about all this. I mean, there's a lot of things, if they don't work, they never see the light of day, so you never know. I'm trying to think.
Were there concepts that R&D came up with that then the creatives didn't have an idea for, or just couldn't see a way to work into a park? Is that kind of what you're looking for?
Nothing. I mean, honestly, nothing jumps to mind. I mean, that sounds terrible in my own way. I'll probably think of it like in an hour from now, going, oh yes, of course. R&D has so many really super duper smart people, and there's so many layers that they get vetted through these. Your presentation modes are so numerous that nothing really gets by that is a real clunker, or it just doesn't work. Gosh, I wish I had a better answer for you. I'm not sounding very smart right now, but it was, they're just, I always think, I never second guess the Imagineering process, because it is a building or a company loaded with a whole bunch of really, really smart people. I mean, really smart. And you get two of them together or three, and it's like, ugh. It's like nothing ever goes wrong. I'm sure if somebody from R&D was here, there would be, they would tell you. I'm sure there's been, explosions in laboratories for all I know, but, they don't see the light of day, and they manage their images really well, and rightfully so. It's good stuff. They're not only R&D for for the theme parks, but the R&D, they're the entire R&D group for the Walt Disney Company. You know, we had a lot of, you know, the photos taken on the rides, and, you know, people, you come through and you're supposed to buy the photos, and people were, especially in Hong Kong, they were just taking pictures of the monitors, and then they would just have, they didn't want to buy stuff. So, you know, they found solutions for that by putting polarizing screens and shoot it. And I mean, there's all kinds of things that they just have to troubleshoot. But I wish I had something that just didn't work. I know I'll think of something and it'll be in the middle of the night, or I'll be like, so let me have your email address and I'll email all of you something.
We have something from the online chat. If you don't want to answer it, that's fine, but I'll ask. Do you think the IP integration with Nemo was effective for the seas? Is some of the spirit of the original Pavilion lost to time, or do you think young people can still appreciate and understand the original vision?
You know, that's a really, I'm going to give you my honest opinion. It's a real tough thing for me. You know, the reason is because when I was talking about this, you know, we did have a fantasy experience that you did go through about the living sea. I mean, about the oceans. It was very stylized. And I think that kind of, you know, that kind of fulfilled that requirement. But Nemo, I mean, I like the Nemo film. I mean, I think it was amazing. They had it floating, you know, in the acrylic, you know, when you're on the ride, and that's all kind of that Pepper's Go stuff. But I mean, I think it's effective. I just don't think it needs to be. I didn't like it in the module, so when they moved it into the other part, I thought that was really good. But my honest opinion is I really think that there are issues going on that were originally meant to be addressed in Communicore. Excuse me, I'm sorry, in Epcot. And I just think there's an audience out there that wants to know about climate control and what the oceans are, what's going on in the oceans, and how can we learn a real appreciation of this. And it's funny because it almost feels like that Epcot philosophy is almost more viable now, you know. And I'm not talking about entertainment or education or whatever. I just think that there are some serious issues that we want to show positive solutions to, and that's Tim's philosophy. That's just me. I'm not a future dystopian kind of guy. You know, I'm just not. I don't know what I'm saying. I mean, people need hope. Young people need hope. Come on, come on. You know, like let's. There's some serious issues out here. Let's gather together. I mean, you know.
Other question, Bill?
So there's an urban legend that says, since Otis Elevator was owned by United Technologies, they're the ones who insisted upon their elevator doors being used in the hydrolators. Is that true?
It makes sense to me. No, seriously. I mean, the mechanism, probably. Yeah. You know, it's funny you should say that, because every time I see a movie where somebody, you know, elevator doors open up and somebody comes walking out and the doors are this wide, that's not how elevators work. There's an indoor and outdoor thing.
Yeah.
So to legitimize this thing, we wanted this to look like it was a real elevator. And there's two sets of doors. I mean, there are pockets, you know, that go in. And yeah, I would have. Yeah, I mean, I think if I wish I could remember it. It's been a few days since we built those things, but. I would imagine I would say, yeah, let's use real mechanisms. The more credibility. I think there was some, I can't remember the name of it, but there was a name of their elevator. Everything they had was like automatic buildings. That's one thing that United Technologies had developed this corporation that they were all synergistic with one another. And so I think the control panels were right from Otis. I just think that, I mean, it probably could have, and if we could have used them, I would have, just to make it look like a real elevator. You know, these are subtle things. I mean, if, like I said, if it was like a 2-inch door that opened and closed like that, you know, you need those doors to overlap so that you don't see light leak through and all that. There's all kinds of reasons for it. So the more credible you can make it, the better the effect is going to be.
Any more questions? Anyone? Nobody? All right. I'm going to ask one more thing.
Yes, sir.
when we spoke on the phone, I brought up another memorable part of the pavilion for me, which was the film. And you immediately went, oh. Obviously, the dialogue, and it's really stuck with the deluge, and all of that has really stuck with people for a long time. So obviously, the film not in your original
Okay.
plans for the pavilion.
Okay, I'm going to say something that's going to relate to everything that you know.
Okay.
When there was something that you planned to do, and that turned into something else, you always have this allegiance. You know, this whole
for sure, yeah.
mythology kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, the film itself, done by Paul Gerber, he's a good filmmaker, but it's kind of it's the short version of how the Earth developed. I mean, it's not completely accurate. And that whole thing of there's something about the deluge, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained. It was just.
It is probably the most overdramatic piece of film. And that's saying something at Epcot Center, right? Because everything's like, every pavilion wanted to tell you that it was the most important topic in the world.
Yeah.
And the seas was just like an unimaginable future. And it's okay.
I don't know. I mean, I think it also has to do with the fact that those theaters were just boxes. We bought pews for people to sit in. It was just simplified. And I just didn't think it was special enough. Give me something, you know. But I understood. I mean, you could feel the tension that was in the company because of what was going on here.
Yeah.
And it's like you go, okay, I got it. I got it. I mean, what you do is you bet on, let's make the most of what you can possibly get. Yeah. And you help mitigate some of the other stuff that is, you know, like they didn't say take out the hydrolators. I mean, that was a bit of show business, you know. That was what that was all about. But I don't know. I'm sorry for that because I don't like being cynical about stuff. You know, I'm just like, I mean, I'm honestly, that's not my thing.
No, well, I understand you're working on a different thing, and then it becomes like, oh, let's just do a film.
Yeah, and it was kind of like not even like so. What I mean, give me a chance to come up with something else, or maybe there's, you know, I mean, you're always looking for when you have an opportunity to create something for, especially a Disney park. You know, we'll work day and night to get this thing. We'll squeeze every ounce of entertainment out of it, you know. And if that's the best you can get, you know, then that's what you do. And not like forget it, we're not doing it, and just strip all that stuff out. We're done.
Yeah.
Like, so that was kind of tough. But you know, the rest of it, you kind of like, well, the main point of what this was all about is still there. The tank is still there. Yeah. Hydrolators were still there. We had the shows. We got people to be little kids and crawl in that gym suit. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's what you do. You know, I will tell you another process that you go through. On the Hong Kong project, I had a Space Mountain project, and I was given a show budget. And I took the show budget and I listed all the things that I wanted, like 1 through 10. It's like, we need a star field, you know, we need, you know, for the show itself. And I tracked the budget right against it, and I got down to number 6. So I'm like, okay, I want everyone to know this is the budget you've given me. I can't get all 10 items, okay? I can get down to like 5 or 6, maybe, you know. And they're just, you can list them. They're the classic Space Mountain kind of effects.
The things that have to be there.
Yeah, things you have to have there, you know. So, you know, I'm not going out here, I don't want to go out here, I'm not going to be hung out here on a limb saying, like, this is what I need. In order to do this, here's the bottom line number. And this wasn't a huge amount of money. It was just like, this is what you need to do. So I'm producing this thing. So you know, okay, this is what we're going to know. So I don't want somebody to come back and go, well, that show's not very good. You know, it's like, ugh, you know. It's like, it's all about communication. So like, if we're going to do it, we're going to lock arms and we're all going to be in here together. That's what we need to do. Because, you know, I don't want to be penalized for something I have no choice for, you know. I want to do the best I can. And if you go, we understand, we'll get you the money. Okay, some people do. Some people do. I mean, you have a responsibility to be fiscally you have to be responsible on these things. Yeah. This is a business, okay? Yeah. There's a reason they call it show business. Yeah. You got the show and you got business. Yeah. You know, I'm not the usual kind of creative guy. I just want to get the biggest bang for the buck. Yeah. You know, I mean, and it can be hard. But so then you look back and, I'm sure we all do this in every creative part of our lives, If there's 100 things that you want to get done in your life,
Yeah.
and you get up to 19, you get up to 98, you just fixate on those 2, if I could just get those 2, And you don't think about the other 98 that you did get, but that's, sometimes you have to do it,
Yeah.
I will say, and again, when you work on Disney projects, it's a different kind of culture. And rarely, in my opinion, rarely do you get those old pats on the back. Atta boy, What you get, and is what I always wanted and what I always liked, is I get a call. How long are you going to be on that thing? You need to get off that now, and we're going to get you on this. I'm like, okay, I love that.
Yeah.
My background's not, I don't need pats on the back. I'm just like, you going to help? Want to do something? Great, let's rock. Let's go, It's an arm wrestle. It is. But I will say, as hard as it can be, I feel very lucky. I loved every second of it. So, good, bad, and different. So when you say, well, something didn't quite go right, yeah, and I might be cynical, and I
Well,
apologize.
we went through the whole Pavilion, and then I think people at home were like, I remember there was like a film, and so I wanted to at least address that the film was there.
Oh, okay, well that's good. You're right, and you're absolutely right. And I realized
You
I
subconsciously
actually
omitted it
realized,
from the
but I have nothing to show for it.
No,
I have
that's
nothing,
fair. I just wanted to say that
all that water
yes, it
running down
existed.
the rocks, and it's like, and it rained.
It
and
was
rained,
there.
And it rained. And it
You
rained.
didn't imagine it at home. There was a film you sat in.
Yes, and okay, you're right. I'm guilty of that. I will say that I can still, the good part is that whole sequence where they went to that digital image and the doors opened up and it says, welcome to Seabase Alpha. Yeah. I thought that was really cool. I like, there was a level of gravitas to it. There was a level of like, wow, we're going to go someplace and the doors open up. That was great. That was great. And the hydrolators are bubbling away. So, but we get spoiled sometimes and we want something that's, new toys. It's not for me. It's like for what we do. That's what we do.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for me as picking up trash with Frank Wells. It's like, I don't think, get somebody out here to do this. Frank didn't do that. It's like, that's what you do.
Well, I think
don't know what else to tell you.
the fans are sometimes cynical because we know that that's what's expected, right? And we know that there's definitely creative people that always are fighting to give us the best product, but there is always that, there's a lot of boxes to tick financially and,
I think, especially coming here, I'm not used to this immersive world that we're in here. And I feel a lot of, should I say this? I feel people disappointed and angry, and that tells me they care and their feelings are hurt. I mean, you're touching them personally. It's like, how could you do that? I mean, we're all here. We love this. We love all of this. We love this. So how could you not do the best, So I feel it here. I'm sorry to say, I don't mean to dip into this. Maybe I should stop. But I think it's when people care is when they care.
Yeah.
You came out, everybody came back and said, it's a crappy show, we don't care. I mean, truly mean they don't care?
Yeah.
That's the end.
No, it's good that people care.
Yeah, I care.
Tim.
Anyway, so thank all of you. Thank you for caring.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Tim Delaney. Thank you to Don and Mark for being here today as well, of course.
Yeah.
What a tremendous day. This has been a really great day. Everyone have a good time? It's good.
Good.
We want to thank you, those of you who watched from home. Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We do have a little bit of something that Don already talked about that we're going to show you to end the day. But again, sincerely, thank you for tuning in. We hope you had a great time, and happy 40th anniversary to Epcot.
Thank you.